and KD. And rumors have it they could join forces with the Knicks. These rumors have heated up after a behind-the-scenes video was released of them talking at the All-Star game. Vince, are you buying that these two could team up this offseason?
Could. It's always possible, right? Like, they have cap space. You know, KD and Kyrie are close. And look, if they're going to have conversations about playing for the Knicks or playing together anywhere, it's not going to be in the sight of all the NBA cameras in the back hallway of All-Star.
I read the lips, Vince. It was like, look, Fizdale can coach. Kyrie was saying Kevin Knox.
I know this is the setup.
Can coach. Madison Square Garden. That's what they were talking about.
They saw
so you mean to tell me, like you are literally stoking the flames of every desperate Knicks fan right now? But no, I do think it's possible. It's something, Chris. You hear like I hear. You hear stuff through the back channels for months now that this is what the Knicks have been gearing up to do. Not that they've gotten assurances or anything like that, but this is something that they know is a possibility. If Boston comes with a 5-year, $188 deal for Kyrie Irving, and they land Anthony Davis, do you see him leaving that to come play for the Knicks, who are in the sort of infancy stages of contention? I don't know if I see that, but I do think it's possible.
How much do you think is contingent upon what happens this postseason?
Well,
with Kyrie, actually with both of these guys, but first look at Kyrie. What Boston does during this playoff run, how much do you think that weighs into what he will decide for this next year?
I think it weighs into the point that if he's healthy and they go to the finals, that means, and he's that guy, that gives Boston every reason to offer him the full boat. If he gets hurt, or if he's not as effective, or if they get bounced in the second round, because at times this year they have looked like that type of team, then it sort of gives you a little more room for the Knicks to sort of come in like that. But if they go to the finals, Chris, and he's that guy, I have a hard time believing that Kyrie, with everything that he's wanted in his career, I have a hard time seeing that he's going to walk away from that.
The interesting thing is that all these guys will be talking. Mm-hmm. You know, as you said, like Kyrie is close with KD, Kyrie is close with Anthony Davis. So they're all going to be talking about what they want to do. And so they'll know before July 1st, they'll know before the draft, you know, where they're leaning. They may not know what they're going to do, but they'll know where they're leaning. AD will know if Kyrie's planning on staying or if he's planning on getting out of there. And I do think it's all based on the postseason. There's not that much reason. If he's happy in Boston and with the organization, then you're right. Why would you leave? But even if they get beat in the conference finals. Now, I get that the young guys think they might be better without him, and he wants to go further than they did last year without him. I get all that. But I'm just saying, when you look at the organization, they know how to win. Danny Ainge's a great GM. You mentioned the supermax they could give him that nobody else can. And then you've got
a guy who's suffered a bunch of injuries.
Right, he has had a bunch of injuries. And then you got a good coach in Brad Stevens, so there's not much reason to leave.
I think that maybe the most interesting part we haven't discussed yet is these are two different dudes, right? Like, again, we all know everybody in the league, and it's a hard way. I mean,
that's a nice way to put it.
Right? Like, you guys all cover the NBA.
Nobody knows what they're going to do.
Right, but these guys specifically, and I don't know if people understand, like, everybody kind of has their own thing, right? But there are guys that still have the ability to remain normal. I think Steph Curry still has the ability to remain normal. Wife, kids. Right. Same guy he was before he was a two-time MVP when he came out of Davidson. Yep. Not everybody's like that. And that doesn't mean they've changed and gone Hollywood. They're just different. Like Kyrie tweaks with people with the flat earth thing. That's who he is. KD's the guy with the burner accounts. That's just kind of they're just kind of different dudes where they don't travel necessarily in NBA circles when they're not in their NBA season. Is that fair? And that makes it even more difficult to pretend like we know what they're going to do, because they don't know what they're going to do.
They don't. Do you think, Vince, you're now out here in the New York area. We got two LA guys. Do you think that the New York Knicks, Madison Square Garden, whatever you want to put, do you still think it has the same cachet, the same draw that it once had at this point for players of this generation?
I don't think it should, because they've won, one playoff series in the last millennium, basically, since 2003
was the last champion.
Like I don't see what players see in New York, but when they get there, they talk about it and they're genuine about it. So maybe it's the process of maybe bringing New York back. and being the guy that brings the New York Knicks back to the sort of stage of prominence, maybe that's attractive to him. But I don't see what would be the draw. Like every free agent of note that comes through New York, they just use New York as a stage to drop 50, and they go back to where they belong. But you mentioned it before. And here's another point. Kyrie has had a lot of twists and turns through his career, but none of them have basically been his choice. The LeBron situation, that really wasn't his choice. He was playing with that team, and then LeBron showed up and everything changed. And when he wanted to get traded, Boston was not one of those teams that he wanted to get moved to. So although it appears that Kyrie has had all these different twists and turns in his career, and they have, none of them have been by his own volition. And I wonder if he's going to take this offseason, and that's something I think will work in the Knicks' favor. That is something that could be his choice, that he can put his own stamp on. And him and KD, like, I don't know if what they think are going to be consistent from Monday to Wednesday in a given week. They're just, like you said, they're just two totally different guys. So to project and say what they're going to do in July, I think that's impossible.
How well would they fit together? I mean, obviously, two of the elite players, but how well would you gauge stylistically that they actually fit together on the court?
You know how you have like this big plate of food for Thanksgiving, and you like, man, I'm going to eat all of it, and then like halfway through, it's like, nah, not really. I don't think they fit as well together as they think they do. Because
why not?
I think
there's only one basketball. Like, last time I checked, you can't play with two basketballs.
I think their mindset is similar. Like Kyrie is probably the greatest scorer of the basketball at his position since Isaiah Thomas, the first Isaiah Thomas.
Yes.
He's not a natural facilitator. KD kind of needs that sort of facilitating personality around him, because remember, when he played with Russell Westbrook, we always had concerns about, is KD been getting the ball enough? We don't really say that now because he's playing with Stephen Curry and Draymond Green, guys who are apt to pass the ball. I don't know if Kyrie, I mean, don't get me wrong, 5 seconds left in the game, pick your poison. But for 48 minutes, I think it's a little more difficult.
It's a great point you make. It's a lot like the idea of New York, right? Where the idea of New York, when you come in and you just play one game in the Garden, you're like, this is great. This is amazing. The fans are amazing. The building's incredible. Like, we're right here in the middle of the heart. You like feel the energy of it. But if you got to do that for 41 games in the playoffs, and you got to answer all the questions to the media, and you can't live like close to the Garden. There's nothing is easy in New York. That's a lot like playing with Kyrie Irving or playing with Kevin Durant, where for one game, like, Kevin Durant's basically an unstoppable offensive weapon. He's a walking bucket. He's 7 foot with a high release, and he can score and defend any position. And Kyrie Irving, I think an Isaiah Thomas reference is perfect. He can pass, but why pass when you're the best finishing guard we've seen since Rod Strickland? So they have it all. But do you want to play with, just because it feels like an all-star game competition or your friends, you want to play together? It's harder than it looks when you're so used to getting the ball at the end. Both guys used to getting the ball at the end of shot clock and making a play.
I think they could make it work.
Oh, you can make it work.
Absolutely,
I think it would work. Kyrie and LeBron,
and you can make it work in New York.
And
you can make it work in New York,
is
but it's not as
nearly
easy.
as ball dominant as LeBron. And so Kyrie can play with a ball dominant guy. I wouldn't even call KD ball dominant. Now, there are times where he'll want to ISO and handle the ball, but he can play off the ball. He can catch and shoot. And Kyrie showed us, now I know it was 2 weeks. He can be a big-time facilitator when he wants to, and I think he would also appreciate a veteran superstar as a teammate more than he did in Cleveland. I get what you're saying, but I think it would work with those two. And KD is a playmaker himself. Kyrie can play off the ball, too, and catch and shoot. So I think they can make it work.
Chris, if this happens, bottom line, they should erect a statue of Scott Perry, like right next to the Statue of Liberty. Like, if they pull this off,
that would be the best move they've done player-wise. Ever. Since the 70s. It really would.
That would be the biggest coup since Pat Riley got Bosh and LeBron and got Wade to recommit all in the same summer. That would be
huge.
It would be seismic.
And Scott Perry does have a relationship with KD.
He drafted him in Seattle.
Yep.
Then stay where you're at. Coming up, could LeBron's injury keep the Lakers out of the playoffs? That's next on First Things First. So not for Magic getting LeBron to the Lakers?
We only got one.
No, one isn't the
old LeBron.
Yeah, you doubt?